You've been playing by rules designed to keep you small, explaining yourself, chasing validation, shrinking your presence. That's why people overlook you, why doors stay closed, why life feels like resistance. But the moment you change how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself, everything shifts. People lean in, opportunities unfold. Respect becomes effortless. When you master this invisible game, the world stops pushing against you and starts bending for you. In a few moments, I will teach you how to move, speak, and exist in a way that makes the world submit. The hard truth is simple. You become what you tolerate. Every time you let something slide, disrespect, mediocrity, laziness, broken promises, you send a message not just to the world, but to yourself. You're telling your subconscious, this is acceptable, this is okay. And the brutal reality, what you accept multiplies. It doesn't matter how ambitious you are, how talented you are, or how badly you say you want success. If your standards are low, your life will reflect it. Every single time. Look around. People are drowning in situations they secretly hate, living lives far beneath what they're capable of, not because they lack potential, but because they've normalized settling. They've learned to tolerate average jobs, average relationships, average health, average results. They whisper to themselves that it's fine, while dying a slow, invisible death inside. But the truth? Life doesn't give you what you desire. It gives you what you demand, what you refuse to tolerate. The world respects the person who draws the line, who says, I do not accept this. When you refuse to entertain disrespect, people stop offering it. When you refuse laziness from yourself, discipline becomes your new identity. When you refuse chaos, disorder, and drama, your environment transforms to match your internal command. Life listens, people listen, but only when you're serious enough to stop negotiating with nonsense. Understand this. Standards are not suggestions. They are rules, boundaries, laws of how you allow life to interact with you. If you tolerate being overlooked, you will be. If you tolerate disrespect, it will become your norm. But the moment you raise the bar, the universe recalibrates. People either step up to meet you or they step out of your life. Both outcomes are a win. The most powerful people in the world aren't superhuman. They've just mastered one thing most never do, the ruthless enforcement of their standards. It's not arrogance, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's deciding this is who I am, this is what I allow. Everything else doesn't exist in my world. That mindset changes everything. If you want excellence, demand it. From yourself first, raise your standards on how you think, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you show up. Stop entertaining weakness disguised as comfort. Stop allowing fear to masquerade as logic. When you elevate what you demand from yourself, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. This isn't about perfection. It's about precision, about deciding what is non-negotiable. Your peace, non-negotiable. Your goals, non-negotiable. Your self-respect, untouchable. Anything that compromises these becomes invisible to you, irrelevant. The world bends for those who refuse to bend for nonsense. When you show life that you're not someone who entertains mediocrity, laziness, or disrespect, life stops offering it. The weak tolerate, the strong eliminate. Raise your standards and watch as everything and everyone around you either rises or disappears. Because you do not get what you wish for, you get what you insist on. The art of strategic absence. There's an undeniable power in being seen. But what most never understand is that there's often even greater power in not being seen. Presence can create desire, but so can absence, and in ways that presence never could. The truth is, the more accessible you are, the more ordinary you become in the eyes of others. Familiarity breeds comfort, but comfort eventually breeds indifference. People start to take for granted what's always available. They stop valuing what they assume will always be there. And if you allow yourself to be constantly accessible, constantly explainable, constantly present, you slowly start to shrink in the perception of others without even realizing it. The strongest individuals in any arena, whether it's business, relationships, leadership, or influence, understand the subtle, ruthless power of pulling back, of not always showing up, of letting their absence speak louder than their presence ever could. When you are always available, when you are always responding, showing up, showing out, you become part of the background noise. But when you withdraw, when you step back strategically, you trigger something primal in people: curiosity, uncertainty, intrigue. Suddenly, your absence becomes louder than any words you could ever speak. This isn't about playing games, it's about understanding, leverage. The more someone sees you, the more their mind adjusts to your presence. You become predictable, routine, expected, and with predictability comes a decline in perceived value. But the moment you become scarce, whether that means fewer appearances, fewer words, fewer explanations, people start to lean in. They wonder why. They wonder where. They start filling in the blanks with their imagination. And imagination, my friend, is always more powerful than reality. Look at the most respected leaders, the most admired icons. They are not omnipresent. They are selective, deliberate, intentional. They understand that value increases with scarcity. Diamonds are valuable because they are rare. Water is essential but abundant, and so no one worships it. This is the same psychology that applies to your presence in the world. The less accessible you are, the more magnetic you become. The mistake most people make is thinking that being constantly available will keep them relevant. It won't. It only makes you easy to ignore. People respect what they can't easily reach. They respect what feels elevated, rare, slightly beyond their grasp. So when you step back, you don't lose relevance, you amplify it. Your silence becomes a statement. Your distance becomes a reminder of your value. Mastering the art of strategic absence doesn't mean disappearing forever. It means choosing your moments. It means understanding that not every room deserves your presence, not every conversation deserves your input, and not every person deserves unlimited access to your energy. When you pull back, you give people a chance to feel the weight of your absence. And when you return with impact, with presence, with power. Because the truth is simple. The most respected people are never the most available. They are the most intentional. The ones who make the world notice their presence precisely because they've mastered the power of their absence. Master the energy you project. Long before you speak, before a single word leaves your lips, the world has already made a decision about you. Your presence speaks first. The energy you carry announces who you are. It walks into the room before you do, lingers after you leave, and influences how people treat you without them even realizing why. Most never realize this. They focus on what to say, how to say it, how to craft the perfect sentences, but they ignore the most powerful form of communication, the invisible signal they broadcast every second they exist. Energy is real. It's not abstract. It's felt. The confident don't have to declare that they're confident. You feel it in how they move, how they look at you, how they stand. The insecure don't have to admit they doubt themselves. You sense it in their fidgeting, their restless speech, their constant need for reassurance. The world is a mirror. It reflects back the energy you radiate, whether you realize it or not. If you walk through life with uncertainty, life responds with resistance. If you move with power, with certainty, with the quiet understanding that you belong, the world adjusts to accommodate that. The truth is, everyone is broadcasting something. Some project neediness, some project desperation. Others project arrogance, insecurity, chaos, or fear. But those who command attention, who shift the atmosphere simply by entering a space, have mastered the subtle art of controlling what they emit. It's not about faking it. It's about aligning your internal state so powerfully that your external world has no choice but to reflect it. When you operate from a place of certainty, certainty in who you are, certainty in your value, certainty in your direction, people feel it. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to prove yourself. You become someone that others naturally look to, follow, and respect. Your energy does the work for you. But if your energy is scattered, if your thoughts are filled with self-doubt, if your internal dialogue is polluted with anxiety and second-guessing, that too becomes your signal. The world reads it loud and clear. Mastering the energy you project starts within. It starts with the conversations you have with yourself when no one's watching. You either reinforce the identity of someone who leads, someone who commands, someone who owns their space, or you reinforce the identity of someone who shrinks, doubts, and reacts. The mirror never lies. You cannot fake what you fundamentally do not believe. Your posture, your stillness, your pace, the way you take up space, all of it tells the world a story. The question is, are you consciously writing that story, or are you letting fear write it for you? Because when you take control of your energy, when you embody composure, certainty, and power, the world responds in ways that seem almost unfair. Doors open, people listen, opportunities gravitate, not because you forced it, but because you mastered the signal you send. The most powerful people rarely say the most. They don't need to. Their presence has already said everything. Own the room without saying a word. There's a language more powerful than anything you could ever say. It's the language of presence. The way you enter a room, the way your body carries itself, the way your eyes meet the world, all of it speaks before your voice ever has the chance. People think power is about how loud you are, how clever your words are, how well you speak. But real power doesn't need noise. It doesn't need explanations. Real power is silent. It lives in the invisible signals you broadcast every time you step into a space. Walk into any room and watch how people respond. Without consciously realizing it, they scan you, your posture, your eye contact, your stillness, your micro expressions. All of it sends a signal. Are you someone who leads or someone who follows? Are you someone to be respected or someone who can be dismissed? This judgment happens within seconds. The room decides before you even open your mouth. The weak slouch, shrink, look away. Their bodies betray their own uncertainty. Their eyes dart nervously, signaling submission before a word is exchanged. And the world responds in kind. But those who understand the art of nonverbal dominance, those who own their space with quiet certainty, shift the entire dynamic the moment they arrive. Their posture is upright but relaxed, signaling confidence without tension. Their gaze is steady, neither aggressive nor avoidant, but commanding. They hold eye contact not as a challenge, but as a statement. I am here. I am grounded. I am unshaken. Micro expressions reveal more than most realize. A slight smirk, a raised brow, a composed neutrality, they speak volumes. They tell the room you are comfortable with yourself, that you are in control of your own energy. The one who moves with intention, who doesn't fidget, who isn't desperate to fill silences, instantly commands more respect than the one who scrambles for words or approval. People aren't responding to your words nearly as much as you think. They are responding to what your body declares about how you see yourself. Carry yourself like you belong, like you have nothing to prove, and the room believes it. Carry yourself like you're waiting for permission, and the room will deny you it. Owning the room without saying a word isn't arrogance, it's self-certainty. It's mastering the subtle cues that most never think twice about. It's the pause before you speak. It's the way you stand when no one's looking. It's the steady, deliberate pace of your movements. It's knowing that presence alone can be louder than anything your mouth could ever produce. When you master this, conversations change. Interactions shift. People treat you differently, not because of anything you've said, but because of everything you've silently shown. This is the quiet dominance that few understand, but everyone feels. The silent authority that needs no announcement, no justification. You walk in and the room feels it, because presence, true presence, is the loudest language there is. The art of unapologetic confidence. Confidence is not a performance. It is not loud. It is not about pretending to be someone you're not. Real confidence is quiet, unapologetic, and undeniable. It doesn't ask for permission to exist. It doesn't shrink itself to make others comfortable. It doesn't carry the burden of constantly explaining or justifying its presence. And yet, most people move through life as if they need the world's permission to take up space. They apologize for their voice, their ambition, their presence, sometimes without even realizing it. They do it in how they lower their gaze, how they soften their tone, how they minimize their own existence in every conversation, in every room they step into. But here's the truth that most never hear. When you move like you don't belong, the world agrees. The energy you project becomes the script that others read. If you walk into a room hoping to be accepted, hoping to be validated, you've already placed yourself beneath everyone there. You've entered the space from a place of lack. You've told the world, I am waiting for your approval before I decide how to feel about myself. And the world responds accordingly. It overlooks you. It forgets you because you showed up like someone waiting to be chosen. Unapologetic confidence begins when you finally decide that you are done negotiating with yourself about whether or not you are enough. It's the moment you stop seeking external validation to justify your own existence. It's when you step into a room not with arrogance, not with a chip on your shoulder, but with the quiet inner knowing that you belong. Not because anyone told you, not because someone gave you permission, but because you decided it was true. This is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most grounded, the person who doesn't flinch, the person who doesn't rush their words, doesn't fidget, doesn't fill every silence with nervous noise, the person who understands that their value is not up for debate, the presence that says, I'm not here to prove, I'm here because I deserve to be. Apologizing for your existence, whether through words, body language, or energy, is the fastest way to become invisible. People don't remember those who shrink themselves. They don't respect those who act like intruders in their own life. But they never forget the one who steps in like they've always belonged. who command space by simply being fully, unapologetically themselves. When you adopt this mindset, everything shifts. The energy changes when you walk in. People notice. They may not even understand why, but they feel it. Something about you doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't ask. It simply is. Because you've stopped waiting for the world to confirm your worth. You already know. You decided. And that decision, the unwavering belief that you are enough, exactly as you are, is what makes the world move around you, not the other way around. This is the art of unapologetic confidence. You don't ask. You don't explain. You simply exist like you belong, because you do. Become comfortable with making people uncomfortable. Most people spend their entire lives twisting themselves into shapes that make others comfortable. They soften their words, dilute their presence, and shrink their energy just to avoid the tension that arises when others feel unsettled by who they are. But what no one tells you is that the moment you stop catering to the comfort of others, the world starts shifting in your favor. Because power isn't handed to those who seek approval. Power belongs to those who are unapologetically themselves, even when it makes the room uncomfortable. When you walk into a room fully owning your presence, fully embodying your worth, without apology, something happens. Some people lean in with respect, others pull back with discomfort. But that discomfort is not your burden. It never was. Their discomfort comes from being confronted with something they can't easily categorize. Someone who doesn't play by the unspoken rules of shrinking, pleasing, or begging to be accepted. And whether they realize it or not, they respect it. Because deep down, even those unsettled by your presence recognize the truth. The one who does not need approval holds the highest leverage. The need to make everyone comfortable is a prison. It forces you to betray yourself in small, invisible ways. You start saying yes when you mean no. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You nod in agreement just to avoid friction. And with every small surrender, you chip away at your own power. But the moment you decide that you are no longer responsible for managing the emotional reactions of others, everything changes. You free yourself. You reclaim the space that was always yours to begin with. Powerful people do not fidget for approval. They do not over-explain. They do not backpedal because someone raised an eyebrow or shifted in their seat. Instead, they let silence do the heavy lifting. They let tension sit in the air without scrambling to dissolve it. Because they understand that discomfort is not a problem, it's a signal that boundaries are being set, a signal that respect is being demanded without a word, a signal that the old dynamics of people-pleasing are dead. If you walk through life constantly trying to keep others comfortable, you will forever live beneath your potential. You will spend your energy smoothing out imaginary wrinkles that were never your responsibility. But when you stop caring whether your confidence intimidates someone, whether your standards inconvenience them, whether your presence forces them to confront their own insecurities, you step into a different level of existence, one where the world adjusts to you, not the other way around. There's a strange irony in it. The more you try to make people comfortable, the less they respect you. But the moment you lean fully into who you are, unmoved by how it lands, unbothered by whether it's palatable, you become magnetic. Not because you forced anyone to like you, but because you showed them you didn't need them to. This is how the world bends. It doesn't bend for the agreeable, it bends for the unapologetic. The game of silence, leverage the void. Silence is one of the most underestimated tools of power. In a world addicted to noise, chatter, and constant validation, silence becomes a weapon. The person who can sit comfortably in silence holds the advantage. While others rush to fill the void with nervous explanations, justifications, or rambling thoughts, the one who masters silence sits in control, calm, collected, and quietly dominant. Most people don't realize this. They believe that influence comes from what they say, how quickly they respond, how eloquently they defend their position. But the truth is, the person who speaks least often commands the most attention. Silence unsettles people because it forces them to face their own discomfort. It creates space for insecurity to breathe, for doubts to creep in, for overthinking to take hold. When you stop talking, others start talking more, sometimes revealing far more than they ever intended. They second-guess themselves. They question what you're thinking. They begin negotiating with themselves in real time. And as that internal pressure builds, you remain still, unaffected, in full control of the dynamic. In negotiations, in arguments, in tense conversations, those who cannot hold silence lose. They fold under the weight of their own need to fill the air. But the one who embraces the void, who leans back, who allows the silence to stretch, forces everyone else into a state of vulnerability. It's in that silence that people panic. They assume your quiet means disapproval, judgment, or calculation. They scramble to clarify themselves, to correct their tone, to sweeten the deal, to offer more than they initially intended. The silence does the heavy lifting for you. The power of silence isn't just about saying less. It's about knowing when not to speak. In moments of conflict, the instinct for most is to defend themselves immediately, to react, to explain. But when you remain silent, you flip the script. The other person is left to battle their own thoughts. Did they go too far? Did they offend you? Are you angered or simply unimpressed? They don't know. And that uncertainty becomes leverage. Silence also communicates something most words can't: complete self-assurance. It says, without saying, that you do not feel the need to convince, to chase, or to earn approval. It's an unspoken message that your worth is already decided by you, not by them. And that level of certainty is magnetic. It makes people lean in, pay attention, and tread carefully, because when someone isn't scrambling to fill the silence, it signals that they hold the upper hand. There is an art to letting silence stretch, an intentional pause that feels like forever to everyone else, but feels like control to you. You hold it until the other person breaks first, until they offer more information, until they sweeten the offer, until they reveal their hand. The void becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront themselves while you sit comfortably, untouched. Silence isn't emptiness. It's pressure. It's power. It's the invisible force that shifts the dynamic in your favor, without you ever having to say a single word. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. There comes a point when you realize that the constant need to explain yourself, to justify your choices, your boundaries, your existence, is a subtle form of weakness. It's disguised as being reasonable, polite, or considerate, but underneath it lives something far less noble: a need for approval, a quiet, creeping insecurity that whispers, if they understand me, maybe they'll accept me. But here's the harsh reality: the more you explain, the more you dilute your power. The more you justify, the more permission you give others to question your worth. Strong people don't explain themselves. They don't plead for understanding. They don't soften their edges to make others feel more comfortable with who they are. They operate from a place where validation is internal, not external. Their presence carries its own explanation. Their results are the loudest thing in the room. The way they move, the way they hold themselves, the way they execute. They don't need to say anything because everything about them already communicates the message. I am not here for your approval. I am here because I chose to be. When you over-explain, you unconsciously lower your status. You hand power to the other person by signaling that their understanding of your decision is necessary for it to be valid. It's not. Whether someone agrees with your standards, your boundaries, or your path is irrelevant. Their approval is not the currency that determines your worth. Yet most people move through life like it is. They water down their truth, add endless footnotes to their decisions, and wrap their boundaries in 100 justifications, all to avoid that uncomfortable moment when someone simply disagrees. But here's the shift that changes everything. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself, not for walking away from chaos, not for raising your standards, not for saying no, not for doing what aligns with your own growth. Powerful people understand that clarity is enough, a decision is enough, a boundary is enough. There is no courtroom, there is no jury, your life is not up for debate. Watch how dynamics shift when you stop explaining. The conversation ends faster, the respect grows quieter, but deeper. People quickly realize that the usual back and forth, where they expect to question, debate, or negotiate your boundaries, isn't available with you. You've closed the door on that dynamic, and in that silence, in that refusal to elaborate, a different kind of power emerges. One that cannot be faked, one that cannot be stolen. Let your results speak. Let the way you move through life explain everything anyone ever needs to know. Let your presence communicate what your words no longer have to. The moment you stop explaining and justifying, the moment you decide that your own validation is the only one that counts, you become untouchable. Not because you shouted it to the world, but because you finally realize you never needed to say anything at all. Walk away power, the ultimate leverage. Nothing in this world commands more respect than the quiet, unspoken ability to walk away. It is the ultimate leverage, the invisible weapon that shifts every dynamic, every negotiation, every interaction in your favor. Most people don't understand this. They believe power comes from how much they can hold on to, how much they can convince, persuade, or endure, but real power isn't found in attachment. It's found in detachment, the unwavering willingness to let go of anything that disrespects your worth, violates your standards, or no longer serves your vision. When you can't walk away, you're trapped. It doesn't matter how confident you act, how clever your words are, or how strong your presence seems. If deep down you know you need the job, the relationship, the opportunity, or the validation, you've already handed over your power. The other side can feel it. They can smell it. People can sense when you're tethered to fear, when you're negotiating from a place of lack, when you're silently praying that things work out because you believe you have no other options. But when you carry the energy of someone who can calmly, confidently, unapologetically walk away, without fuss, without drama, without a second glance, the game changes. Suddenly, the entire dynamic tilts in your favor. You are no longer chasing, you are choosing. You are no longer